This program contains dramatic reenactments and material that may be disturbing to some audience members. Viewer discretion is advised.
3 British mountaineers attempt the climb of their lives in Alaska. But within sight of the summit, the weather stops them in their tracks. When frostbite threatens the life of one climber, another faces a terrible choice. Stay with the team and hope they'll be rescued, or leave them behind, descending the mountain alone to go for help, risking death on the ice fields below. How one man's decision could become his last on I Shouldn't Be Alive.
Requesting urgent assistance, over!
Mount McKinley is the highest mountain in North America. It stands in the Arctic Circle. It's cold and remote, a place where weather conditions can change without warning. It's one of the toughest climbs in the world. Three British climbers have their sights set on the 20,000-foot summit. If all goes according to plan, the climb should take 2.5 weeks. Steve Ball has been climbing for 18 years. He's conquered some of the highest peaks in the world.
For me, the mountain environment is a very special and beautiful place. Particularly Mount McKinley, it's one of the great wildernesses of this world. It's been one of my ambitions for a long time.
Anthony Hollinshead is Steve's best friend and his longtime climbing partner.
The first 16 days of climbing were some of the best days and some of the hardest days of climbing I've ever done in my life.
Nigel Vardy completes the 3-man team. This is his first expedition with the others. He's an experienced climber, but he's never attempted a mountain as cold or as treacherous as Mount McKinley.
Originally, Steve had the dream of climbing McKinley, and really we perhaps followed his lead.
With Nigel coming into the team, it's obviously changes the team dynamics slightly, I suppose. Stephen and I were used to making decisions.
Right, you ready?
There's an awful lot of pressure to work together well, because you are reliant on each other. Absolutely reliant. There is nobody else there.
Come on, let's get going.
There are a number of routes up Mount McKinley. One of the most popular is the West Buttress. But Steve, Anthony, and Nigel have decided to tackle the West Rib. This is much more challenging, because climbers have to take on huge ice walls and plateaus riddled with crevasses that can drop hundreds of feet through the ice that covers the mountain's granite and slate core. After 17 days, they've climbed over 16,000 feet and have reached their last camp before the summit.
The night before the summit bed, we're in the tent. We're all pretty high. I think we're ready for it tomorrow.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, dehydrated meat or fish, or how about our lovely powdered vegetarian option?
He is a real comedy character to know, is Anthony. Full of life, always got a good laugh.
Hey, nice bit of colour you picked up today. You'll be in swimming trunks tomorrow.
Did you not put your sunblock on today?
Steve's quite the opposite. Steve's a very serious character.
Should be like a religion to you, Nigel. You know what the sun can do to your skin up here? Right. Fast up, fast down, OK? So let's strip all the unnecessary gear and pack a kit.
What we agreed? Frillies in tutus.
There's a permanent base camp set up to facilitate all of the climbers on the mountain. Nigel radios down for the latest weather report, which will help the team decide whether to push for the summit in the morning.
Base to Denson. Weather's looking fairly good for the next 24 hours.
Copy that, base. Good night. Good enough?
We better get some beauty sleep then, eh? To infinity and beyond.
Even though the weather forecast is good, the challenge ahead is still daunting.
I sometimes suffer a little bit with confidence, and sometimes I have to say, Nigel, you can do this, you'll be fine. Get together tomorrow and go for it.
Come on, fellas. You should have had this done earlier.
They want to make it to the summit and back in under 12 hours.
Top of the world, boys.
It's a run for the summit, stick the flag on, get the photographs, and back down again.
They plan to return to this camp by nightfall. To lighten their load for speed, they make a risky decision. They leave the tent and most of their equipment behind. The cold, thin air is slowing them down with every step. And also, at this height, altitude sickness can be a killer. After several hours of hard climbing, the team is already behind schedule. They've now reached an area known as the football field, a flat plateau just below the summit. But on Mount McKinley, the weather can change in an instant.
As we walked across the top of the football field, the wind started to increase rapidly.
The temperatures dropped to around minus 50 degrees centigrade, with the wind howling over the summit ridge at about 70 miles an hour. I don't know what that takes you down to, but it's cold, believe me.
Every step is just draining. You're almost crawling, really, just to sort of get your face out of the wind.
It can be like being hit with hailstones, frozen peas, if you've got exposed flesh.
Weather conditions on this mountain are some of the most severe and unpredictable in the world, and can cause death by flash freezing in seconds.
What I didn't realise was how cold Steve was getting. Steve was getting bitterly cold.
I can feel myself going down. I'm shivering, my teeth are chattering, my thought process is slowing down, I'm becoming lethargic.
What the others don't realize is that Steve is beginning to feel the effects of hypothermia. He is literally freezing to death. Anthony and Nigel are now desperate to get Steve out of the wind and cold that could freeze them all.
Finding anywhere to hide up there is very difficult. You really are out on your own. By the grace of God, we found a crevasse at the base of the summit cone. We took our ice axes and opened the face of it up, which was very hard work.
I can feel myself going down. I'm shivering. Hypothermia is going to come soon if I don't get out of this wind.
Oh, God. Easy. Tony.
The crevasse offers them some protection from the freezing conditions, but Steve just seems to get colder.
I need you to help me. I need you to get some warmth into me.
Steve asks me to sort of cuddle him, keep him warm, really.
You ever tell anyone about this at climbing club? And you're toast.
Steve is suffering from the effects of hypothermia. The colder he gets, the more impaired his brain becomes, as the chemical reactions necessary to make his brain function slow down. Steve is now disoriented and delirious.
Anthony was talking to Steve quite a lot, and I think that probably came from the fact that they were great friends anyway. They'd known each other a long, long time, and Anthony just wasn't going to let him go.
But hypothermia isn't their only problem.
Thirsty! Thirsty! Give us a drink! Nice drink!
Let's see what we've got.
Dehydration is a major, major problem. And we'd all got 17 days hard climbing behind us, which means you don't carry a lot of excess fat, which is what you need in a situation like this.
The few supplies we had would have been adequate if we'd had fluid.
What's that then, Nige?
We should have carried a stove to reheat and to get some warm food inside us and possibly a better drink inside us.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. Just calm down. I'm here, all right? Just shh.
We've got to radio for help. Get them to send help. We'll never get Steve down on our own, not in the state that he's in. We've got no choice.
Oh, he's still shivering and moving. That's a really good sign.
We need to call now rather than wait until it's too late. Just hope there's enough charge in the battery to get through.
Is it okay?
We'll get a better signal outside. Base camp! Base camp! This is Expedition Denson. Do you copy? Base camp! Base camp! This is Expedition Denson requesting urgent assistance. Over.
This is Base Camp. Base Camp receiving. If you're trying to reach us, we can hear your button being pressed, but no voice transmission. Repeat, your button, but not your voice.
I felt very happy to hear somebody else's voice, that there was somebody there. But they were really struggling to hear us.
We need you to respond by click. 1 click for yes, 2 for no. Repeat. 1 click for yes, 2 for no.
And so they started off, are you this expedition? 1 click for yes, 2 clicks for no.
Are you Expedition Zambezi?
And we just went down until they got a click for yes.
Are you Expedition Denson?
And at that point, they've got who you are, what route you're climbing, next of kin, equipment, all this information they can use.
The storm is too bad to rescue you tonight. We need you to call again in the morning. The storm is too bad to rescue you tonight. If you can call.
But the cold was obviously being a problem with the radio.
Come in! Are you receiving?
What did they say?
On to call. Reconfirm our position in the morning. We've just got to get through tonight. Radio again tomorrow.
Steve? Steve? Nige! Steve, stop moving!
Steve is becoming dangerously hypothermic. His core body temperature has dropped to a life-threatening 91 degrees. And now Nigel is also losing his battle against the cold.
I don't realise I'm going hypothermic. And my own mind is shutting down.
Anthony must try to keep his two friends alive in temperatures of minus 26 degrees at almost 20,000 feet. If the temperature continues to fall, they could all be dead by morning. But with the daybreak comes a surprise.
Morning.
Steve has made a remarkable recovery.
You seem disgustingly fit for a man who was a shivering wreck last night. Obviously these big manly arms of mine.
Stuffed.
Overnight, Anthony managed to slow the process of hypothermia by holding Steve's body close to his own, providing much-needed insulation against the cold.
Come on, let's go and check where we are.
What about Nige?
Oh, we can get him later. Look, just like you and I, let's go and have a look at this mountain that we've been talking about for so long. Okay.
At this point, I'm still hoping to make it to the summit, for all three of us to get there.
Will you look at that?
Look, we can almost touch it. It's there for the taking. Come on, let's go for it.
Steve, last night you were pretty bad, you know. Nigel thought, we both thought that you should radio a distress call.
What the hell did you do that for? What did they say?
Nigel went outside to make the call. He said the radio didn't seem to be working.
One last push and we're there. So let's get back, radio base, and tell them that we're all fine now.
Look, I'm sorry, mate, but you were a real mess.
It's fine. Really. Let's just get back, get Nigel, radio in, and push on.
Overnight, the cold also took its toll on Nigel. He's weak and not thinking clearly.
I took the radio and I put it on the edge of the crevasse top while I hauled myself up and my rucksack. And I knocked it with my elbow. And just watched this little black dot go flying down the slope. And I thought, you prat.
Base camp, this is Expedition Denson. Do you copy?
It's dead. Which was a hell of a thing to realise.
Base camp, this is Expedition Denson. Please, come in.
Your only means of contact with the outside world was gone. And it's the one thing that could save you, is being able to talk to people.
Is everything okay? Guys, I'm so sorry. I've dropped the radio. I've broken it.
Nige, your face.
I'd missed this completely. I'd not realised it was happening. And he looked at me and I could feel his hand come up and pull. I got balaclavas here and it just pulls them over. And I can't feel this cold. I can feel numbness, but I can't feel any further.
I look at Nigel and I'm shocked. He's in a terrible state. The day before, he got sunburnt on his cheek, and overnight frost must have got into this because his face was swollen up the size of a football.
The sunburn on Nigel's face damaged his skin, leaving it dangerously susceptible to frostbite. The cold has frozen the fluid in his skin cells, creating ice crystals. The cells have ruptured, causing his face to swell. The blood supply is not reaching the damaged skin, and unless it does soon, these affected areas will die.
I don't know how long he's going to last. We've just got to get him off.
Let's get you inside, eh? Look, Steve.
I'm so sorry. Maybe the two of you can push on. I know how important getting to the top is for the both of you.
Look, let's not worry about that now, okay?
Steve and Anthony took it fantastically well, actually, and I felt immensely guilty. Still do.
We've got to get down. Get him to a hospital and quickly.
The mountain will be here next year, be here the year after. If we leave Nigel like this, he might not be. We've got to get down.
They have no idea whether anyone is looking for them after yesterday's distress call. It's now up to Steve and Anthony to get Nigel down the mountain.
When we set off back, it's obvious that Nigel is struggling, and we didn't realise that his eyesight was quite as bad as it was.
The swelling on Nigel's face has forced his eyes shut. He's becoming weaker and confused, slower with every step.
It's a feeling of being out of control.
Nigel! Go on! Keep moving!
He was falling over and tripping over. It was painful to see. Steve was starting to cool down as again, and that was becoming a concern for Steve. I am worried about both Steve and Nigel at this stage.
Stay left out. Bring round me.
Go on, fellas! Keep the pace! Come on!
Bring round me.
Come on! Come on!
The temperature is plummeting to minus 20 degrees. They must get down quickly if they're to survive.
We've got to get down. We've got to get somebody down now and organise a rescue.
What about Nigel's mayday call?
Look, we don't even know if he got through or not. Tony, I can't keep going at this slow pace. I'm going to go hypothermic again. I'm going to have to go down on my own.
The decision when Steve says this to me is do I stay with Nigel or do I go with Steve?
If we leave Nigel here, he dies.
I didn't think Nigel was in a fit condition to sit it out on his own. I don't think he would have lasted very long if he'd been left to his own devices.
It's up to you, mate.
Are you sure?
It's very selfless of him to stay with Nigel.
You be all right?
Will you?
See you later.
Steve. What's your step?
Somewhere in the back of my mind I can hear some mumbling going on, but I don't take any notice of it. And Steve walks away. And I'm looking at him, squinting, thinking, Steve, where are you going? And he's gone.
Nige, we're just going to set ourselves here for a while, okay? Yeah?
I'm trying to keep it from the forefront of my mind, but it's obvious that there is a chance that Nigel could die. It's a weird experience seeing Steve go off on his own.
It's a massive responsibility for me to get down, and I feel the weight of that responsibility. It's on my shoulders to make sure that these pair live.
Steve will have to risk his own life to save his friends and go down the mountain alone. It's a decision fraught with danger even Steve could not have imagined.
The pressure's on to get down really fast now. Down climbing is much harder than up climbing, and when you've not got a rope on or someone to care for you up above, the risk's high. My heart's pounding a little bit. Everything seems firm, everything's holding. Okay, big breath, come on, let's go.
Solid. Another placement there. It's good. Solid. Right.
All of a sudden there's a crack. And I'm off. The adrenaline's going, and I'm thinking so fast that these seconds I'm falling feels like minutes. There's absolutely no way I can plant this ice axe to stop my fall. It would just rip my arm out of the socket. I need to stop.
Steve has fallen a distance the height of the Chrysler Building. 2,300 feet above him, Anthony and Nigel are unaware of his accident and are just trying to stay alive.
There is little we can do to stay warm without using our energies up. Not knowing quite what the next step is going to be, and we're telling kiddies jokes which aren't very funny.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
Lettuce.
Lettuce who?
Lettuce, and it's freezing. Sorry.
That's bad.
I feel very helpless. I really do. And to have somebody there with you is fantastic.
Go, mate. Open your mouth a bit. There we go. Just
He's being like a nursemaid and being a very, very good one.
Yes.
Oh, I can't believe I'm still alive. The fall should have killed me. Pain's quite excruciating now. I need to take a look at my legs and see what condition they're in. I'm really concerned now that I might bleed to death.
Steve has broken both legs, his left one in 12 places, resulting in irreparable damage to the muscles, blood vessels, and nerves. He's lost a lot of blood. As he lies in the cold, his condition is now critical.
And try to put pressure on the wound to stem the flow. Now I'm pressing down onto bone end and just raw fibres showing through the skin.
Steve's attempt to save his friends is now over. Time is running out for all of the climbers on a freezing mountaintop. Frostbite has started to affect Nigel's hands and feet. They're deteriorating fast. He needs help, and he needs it quickly.
Nigel's extremely weak. He's very cold. And myself, I'm actually getting colder at this stage.
Let's get this glove back on.
We don't know Steve's situation, and we are both remaining optimistic, especially myself, that Steve will raise the alarm.
Come on now. Won't be long. Could be on the way any minute.
Steve's only hope for survival is if he can make a splint and try to get up to a path where he could be seen by possible rescuers.
I tie my ice axe around my leg to try and support it. Everything's lined up now, and I'm looking in better condition. Now comes a big test. What am I going to do? If I don't put my weight on the leg, I'll never know, I'll never get off. Gotta give it a go.
Steve is losing blood fast and is fighting terrible pain. Desperation takes hold.
I start to blow my whistle in case there's anybody just the other side of the rib. I'm sitting there thinking, what else can I do to attract attention? I've got nothing else. I've let them down. I've let my mates down, and they're probably going to die.
The constant exposure to freezing temperatures and the bitter wind have taken their toll on Nigel. He has all but given up hope.
We were sat behind the rocks for something like 10 hours, I would think.
Nigel? Nigel?
We thought Steve was the hero of the day for raising the alarm and getting the helicopter to us.
The rescue was, in fact, mounted when Nigel failed to radio in that morning. At 19,500 feet, it is still the highest helicopter rescue on record in North America. Unaware that his friends have been rescued, Steve prepares to endure a night exposed on the mountain. In these temperatures, he's just hours away from death.
I've got to look after myself for the night now. I've got to think about shelter, about keeping myself warm. What if the wind comes down the mountain?
He's already been exposed to the cold for too long. He struggles to build a snow hole.
I need to make sure that I stay awake when it's dark. If I don't stay awake, I die. This is it. The sun's gone down. If I think about 4 hours in the dark, temperature's down to -50 centigrade, and surviving it, it's a long, long way to go.
Steve knows he has to keep himself awake to survive, but fatigue is slowly overcoming him. As his metabolic rate drops because of the cold, every cell in his body slows down. Blood vessels narrow to constrict the flow to his extremities to provide more heat to his vital organs, his brain, lungs, and heart. Steve's body has gone into the ultimate survival zone.
I'm thinking about my family back home in England. That's keeping me going. I want to see my family. I want to go home to them. I've got to stay awake. I'm messing with my leg, checking my fingers, make sure I'm not frozen. My eyes, so my eyes don't freeze. Even tapping my leg to stimulate some pain so that it keeps me awake.
But his friends have no idea that Steve is still lost on the mountain.
Somebody came into my room in the hospital and woke me up to ask me what Steve was wearing. It's only then I actually realised that Steve wasn't in a place of safety. He had been there for up to 12 hours out, exposed on the mountainside, and nobody knew where he was.
Climbers are now out looking for Steve, but they have no idea where to look for him. Expectations are low. The human body rarely survives the kind of overnight temperatures that Steve has been subjected to.
I can't feel my feet anymore. My nose is cold. I don't want to take my fingers out of my pockets. I just want to stay huddled up. I haven't got a lot left. I'm starting to lose it. I think I'm dreaming. I'm hearing voices, and I don't know who it is. I think I'm dreaming.
But it's not a dream. The voices are real.
Tom, on the radio, quick.
I know these voices, and I know I'm being rescued. I know I can't be dreaming it because I'm feeling the pain, and you don't feel pain when you're dreaming. I'm awake. They tell me they're climbers, and they found me, and they're surprised that I'm still alive. I'm cold, but I'm alive, and I'm going to stay alive. I want to go home.
Steve is airlifted to the hospital and spends the next 8 hours in intensive care. Finally, still in a critical condition, he's allowed to see his friend Anthony.
It was gut-wrenching for me to see Steve in such a dreadful condition. He did look terrible. At least he was alive.
After 2 weeks in Alaska in intensive care, Steve was allowed to travel back to the United Kingdom. He then spent another 6 months in the hospital there, followed by 2 years of rehabilitation.
My frostbite injuries resulted in amputations of all the fingers and thumb on my right hand, my left hand mid-palm. The left leg has gone below the knee, and my right foot has gone mid-foot, and of course a little bit of nose.
Anthony and Nigel both suffered from severe frostbite. Anthony lost 2 fingers. Nigel lost all his fingers and all his toes, as well as needing skin grafts to reconstruct his cheek and nose.
I've managed to travel the world numerous times since all this happened, and go into the Arctic, the Himalayas, and climb. A little slower.
Steve's asked me, as he would, whether we could go back and do it again, and I'd like to think that we will get back and get another expedition planned, possibly all three of us together, and do something, but we'll have to wait and see.
I'm disabled now, but I'm out fell running, out walking, I go rock climbing, I go mountaineering, snowboarding, skiing, canoeing. I still go back to the mountains, I still climb, and I still get the same pleasure and enjoyment from the mountains. So, no, it's not worth losing life and limb. But you can't stop going. I'm hooked.